consistency has led to loyalty and a rather large following. At this point, I think we're up over 250,000 subscribers. Started out as 100 subscribers, right? And so just consistency and automating, using software to automate are two keys that I would say if you're trying to get into this and not be overwhelmed, start there.
Hey, Smart Chiropractors, welcome to another episode of Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor. I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. Today, we have the opportunity to sit down and chat with Dr. Peter Osborne. He is a chiropractor. He's an expert in functional nutrition. He's a speaker, an author, and more. We're going to talk a lot of memberships and subscriptions, but before we get there, Peter, thank you for coming on. And where did your passion for nutrition begin?
I began before chiropractic school, really in weightlifting. I was a bodybuilder. I never competed, but I loved it. I just loved the physical frame in the body and getting stronger. And nutrition was just so important to that. And that's what led me to chiropractic school. And then from there, I really just expertly shifted and moved into nutrition. So it started out as a self-passion, but my first patient in private practice, or not my very first, but one of them, was a terminal young girl with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and she had 6 months. They gave her a 6-month death sentence, and we changed her diet. I changed her diet to gluten-free. She was allergic to blueberries. It saved her life in 6 months. She had a permanent port embedded in her arm. 6 months, we took it out. 12 months, she was in full remission, and she graduated college here not too long ago. So that was my passion, because I knew that nutrition could save somebody's life, not just reduce their pain, not just band-aid their pain, but just save a life. And that's really where I started really trying to push out and try to reach more people.
Hey, Doc, the money is in your list. If you're not utilizing weekly email newsletters to drive reactivations into your practice, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. To schedule a demo and see how we help hundreds of docs do this each and every week, go to thesmartchiropractor.com today. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. Schedule a demo with our team. But right now, we'll get back into this awesome interview on Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor.
You know, Peter, I feel your passion. We were talking earlier about, sort of doing what you do because it's the right thing to do, not necessarily because it's the most profitable or easiest thing to do. You've built what appears to be quite a significant nutrition business, even as a chiropractor. I know many chiropractors sort of struggle. They love adjusting. They want to adjust. They may not want to give it up. Do you recommend that there's a way to sort of have the best of both worlds? And, could you give any chiropractors sort of some insight to sort of the business model, the recurring revenue model that does come along with making appropriate recommendations for appropriate supplements at the right time? Again, nobody's talking about selling something people don't need. We're talking about serving people based on their needs. What do you think chiropractors need to know or should know that might make their practices better, more profitable, and more importantly, serve their people at a higher level?
Number one, as a chiropractor, you want to ask yourself what you really love and what you're really passionate about, because I think that's the first ingredient. If you are trying to put products in front of people that you don't believe in, or that really aren't the right fit, they're going to see through that, and you're probably going to chase more people off than you help. So passion has to come first. And then once you've dialed that in and you feel really strongly, business model around your practice, depending on what you want. Like, I could have retired my practice years ago. I'm not in practice per se because I need the income. I'm in practice today because I like to help people, and God gave me a gift. And so a one-on-one setting for me is using that gift. But around the business aspect, if you're trying, like, maybe you're at a point in your career where you want to scale back quantitatively how many patients you have to see, then you have to really think about how you can position your passion in an online forum where you're educating and you're in front of people consistently, not once, not twice. Sometimes it's 25 views that they have to have in order to buy that product, or in order to make that sale, or in order for them to actually start to begin to like and trust you. So it's about consistency and showing up. And what we have found in our model with Gluten-Free Society, which is my foundation for educating patients about gluten, is the more we give, the more we give back, right? And I have, at this point, 15 employees. I have, I have writers, I have graphic artists, I have videographers. I've got an entire team of content folks to help me generate consistently content to put in front of people. And that didn't start that way. So, like, if you're new We didn't start with 15 employees. We started with me in a back of a closet, typing away on a keyboard, trying to figure out the internet thing. But because I was passionate about it, there was nothing that was going to stop me. So today we have an entire line of over 114 SKUs of supplement products that we sell to help people going and navigating the gluten journey. Many of which it's two ways. So there's one way is that you have new people that come in and buy product, they like the product and they just repeat buy it, right? And so that's passive revenue from my perspective because I have a team that deals with it all. But then there's also the recurring revenue models of how things can be set up, which is, one of the things we all also offer, and we just modeled Amazon, is they offer, discounts when you subscribe. So it's a subscribe and save platform as well, where people can, they can tap into products they love. If they like them a lot, they can get them on a monthly recurring basis and they save a little bit of money. And then, we have now subscriber base to have guaranteed flow of revenue. And then we just reinvest the revenue back into the company. So when I started early, it was small amounts of revenue, but I would just take that and reinvest it and keep reinvesting it enough. It was not really all that profitable the first year, but once we had a team in place that took a lot of the work off my hands, it's now pretty a well-oiled machine, and it's automated, and we can deliver great content consistently over time to millions of people across the span of the world because we have clients globally, and it's just fantastic. I'm reaching so many more people.
I love it. There's a lot to dive into there, Peter, we call it teach and invite consistently. It sounds like you've been on that train from a content production standpoint for a while. I love it. Second component is you touched on e-commerce, recurring revenue, and being able to reduce the day in and day out stress, being able to automate and delegate where appropriately. We think of that in terms of our Smart Care store system. We love it. We are on the same page. So many docs out there have never taken that first step. If you think back, what would maybe be one or two items that you would say to a doc who wants to get into the online space, who's interested in e-commerce, who wants to have the freedom associated with some of that passive revenue, but they either don't know where to start or they maybe had a fit and a start in the past? What would maybe be some of the advice that you'd offer or a lesson that you've learned along the way?
I'd say number one, hire fast, hire coaching, hire consultants, because when I started, the first company I built it was called NutraMD. And I was partnering with a medical doctor, and we were creating a product line that was supposed to bridge the gap between medicine and supplements, and that medicines cause nutritional deficiencies. So we were creating products that would bridge that nutritional deficiency. And neither one of us knew what we were doing. And we invested in an inordinate amount of money, and we lost all that. And the company went a belly up. And the reason why is because it was a terrible product idea. And I didn't know that. And had I hired a consultant and understood marketing a little bit better, I would have understood one fundamental lesson, which is pain sells. You have to solve a person's bleeding neck issue. People that want to take medicine don't want to take supplements too, right? So it's not like there is no gap to bridge. We created what we thought was a product that fundamentally was a great idea, but there was no marketplace for it. And so hiring coaching was one of the smartest things I ever did, because when that company went out of business, I took a product line to a consultant, and they were like, they shut it down immediately and saved me thousands of dollars in mistakes and really helped guide me. And so, that's where I went back to the drawing board and said, well, really, if we can't bridge this gap of something I'm really passionate about, which is drug-induced nutritional deficiencies, I'm also really passionate about diet change and gluten. And so that's where that came from. So like we were able now to really focus in on that. And, people with gluten-free diets, we know that if you go gluten-free in a matter of a week's time, chronic autoimmune pain, you're going to get 40, 30, 50%, sometimes 80% reduction in pain quick, fast. So we solved their bleeding neck issue by giving them that gift of knowledge. And then they trust us now. And so now we have a product line and that they trust because they trusted our advice. And so that's what I would say is this, going back to passion and going back to hiring somebody to even just see if you have a good idea. Because sometimes what may feel like a good idea is really, it's not marketable, and there's not a market for it.
Very true. And to your point, you are the best-selling author of No Grain, No Pain. My question is, for those that are for those chiropractors that are new to this conversation, I know we could go for hours on about what I'm about to ask you. So let's just stay on the top kind of pieces of the puzzle. Can you just sort of talk through what the different pieces of the puzzle are? Somebody goes, maybe sees you on social, watches you, hears you on a podcast, they opt in for your book. How does opting in for a book lead to eventually somebody purchasing a product? They opt in, they get emails. What happens from there? For those that are new to the sort of sequence, how does that magic happen?
Yeah. So, I mean, the magic is capturing data. So what data do we want to capture? We want to capture name and email. I mean, that's the simplest data to capture. You don't want to be a creepy spy and follow them around everywhere, but you want to be able to say, I have a thing that has value and you have a problem where you need this thing to solve your problem, right? And I'm not going to try to sell you. It's like trying to, there's etiquette. It's like dating etiquette, right? You don't try to go to third base on the first date. You don't do that with your sales either, unless you're just an aggressive, that people a lot of times are turned off by that. So it's kind of a lure. It's not a bait and switch, but it's hey, I have something of value. And for us, it really was a quiz. We started out with a gluten-free quiz. Am I gluten sensitive? And so it's a series of questions. If they answer yes to them, then we give them an idea as to whether or not there's a possibility that gluten might be part of their problem. And then we follow that up with an automation, right? So an automation is a series of digital emails, videos, and content that helps them say, okay, if you're trying to go gluten-free, here are all the ways to do it. Here's a list of all the ways to find gluten in food labels. Here's a video that explains exactly what gluten sensitivity is. Here is a list of recipes that you can use because it can be challenging. Here's a list of foods that you can buy in the grocery store that are going to make your life easier when you're trying to make that transition. Like we're solving all the bleeding neck issues by just delivering value. We're not asking for any money at this point. We're not asking them to become customers. We're just saying we're here to help. And so that's the way it starts. And then you do get to a point in that relationship where you ask for a kiss, right? Or you ask for if you put a product in front of them, and generally something that is beneficial or helpful. For us, that product is called Gluten Shield, which is an enzyme that they can take when they travel or when they eat out and they want to try to reduce the risk of cross-contamination in their food. And so that's something that is helpful for them, right? And so we introduce that as an introduction to our entire product line. We have a bread mix too, a grain-free bread mix that we use. And we do that around holiday time. We say, hey, we know you're trying to make desserts and bread and rolls and all those things that you're trying to replace. Here's the mix and here are all the recipes to do that. So that might sound daunting to somebody listening to this who's not even got their feet wet yet, but we didn't start with all those things. We started with a simple quiz and we followed that simple quiz up with just a short series, 5 or 6 emails of just good information. Okay. And that part's important to have that automated. And it's not hard to do, especially with today's technology. When I started this, you didn't have these technological platforms that we do today. But the other thing I would say is show up consistently. That's another mistake that a lot of the doctors that I have seen make is that they have an idea. It's a good idea. They have an email sequence. It's a good email sequence, but after it's over, there's zero follow-up. And so they may hit them 5 times over a week or 2 weeks, and then it's crickets. And in today's world, we're competing so much with everybody, right? We're competing for everyone's attention. They've got the most powerful computer in the world in their hand that you're competing for their attention over that and their families and their work and everything else. So you have to be consistent. Because it's not about, you're not competing with those things as much as you're just showing up. You're the guy tapping them on the shoulder all the time saying, hey, remember me. Hey, remember me. Here's another piece of valuable information. Here's another email. Here's a sale we're having this week. Save some money, right? And so that's how it starts with one idea. You get it automated and then you show up consistently. And the way I showed up consistently, and this is where you have to evaluate your own personal skill set. I love video. I can get on video and I can talk all day. And so for me, it was doing a weekly show and just streaming a weekly show to my Facebook audience, to my YouTube audience, to my Instagram audience, right? And we just live stream that on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I can just show up for an hour and it's just part of my schedule. It's just part of my marketing. It's part of my schedule. And so I don't have to do a major production to show up and answer people's questions and to help give people good nutritional sound advice. So that consistency has led to loyalty and a rather large following. At this point, I think we're up over 250,000 subscribers. And so, started out as like 100 subscribers, right? And so just consistency and automating, using software to automate are two keys that I would say if you're trying to get into this and not be overwhelmed, start there.
Hey, it's Dr. Jason. I just want to take a brief moment and invite you to schedule a demo with our team to learn more about our patient pilot automated email campaigns. They are the smartest way to reactivate the people you've seen over the years in the past. Check it out, schedule a demo. We look forward to helping you help more people, piloting your patients back into your practice. Now back to our show.
Very, very well said. I love the point of consistency. The other thing that I want to highlight for everybody listening that you mentioned, and it's very, very important, is setting aside that time you schedule that time. It's not something where I'm going to get to it, which never happens. You made it a priority. As a result of that, you achieved what you wanted to, right? You were able to take action steps towards that goal by scheduling that time. Absolutely critical. I was taking a look here at Gluten Shield. I have a question on this because one of the things that we really love when docs take advantage of something like this in a positive way is items that are everybody every day, items that have a recurring nature to them, because it's great for them and it's great from a business sense as well. How do you think about recurring products as an expert in functional nutrition? I know sometimes that's prescriptive by nature. There's probably a balance there, but how do you think about that balance? How do you think about it from a product and a business perspective? I just would love your thoughts on it.
The benefit of being a hybrid. So I have a clinic, and so I have a full pharmacy in my practice that I tap into with my one-on-ones, but I also have an online business. And so for us, the way we think about it is what best serves the patients, what gets the best results and the best outcomes. But then from there, when somebody's on my online world and they're not part of my practice and, they're not getting one-on-one guidance, what are core products that are something that, they could benefit from just by using every day? And so we have, what we call our gluten-free starter kit, which is a solid multivitamin, a solid fish oil, an omega-3 fatty acid, and an enzyme formula to help block gluten exposure. And then we also have our other really big kind of what we call staple is our bread. The number one thing people miss when they try to go gluten-free is sandwich bread, right? So we've got a custom bread mix, and then we've just hired a chef, and our chef has made bread, flatbread, rolls, cake. What do you miss? Gyro, like we have it all. Like you can make anything from our bread mix. Our bread mix is the base, and we have just basically expanded on the people's usability of that base so that they can still enjoy the things they may have missed in their diet without hurting themselves.
Peter, there is a lot of rabbit holes we could dive into, but I want to be respectful of your time and on task as far as this podcast is concerned. For the docs listening and watching, we're going to drop links down below, but if you want to shout it out, I'd love to give you the opportunity to do so. Where can docs connect with you, learn more? How should they go about getting in your ecosystem?
Go to glutenfreesociety.org. Take the quiz. If you want to see the inner workings of a successful business that's online and you're trying to break into it, you have to look at other online successful businesses and really reverse engineer what success has already done. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so much that you can learn just by going there, getting on our list and subscribing, and look at the emails, look at how they're written. Look at what's being offered, when it's being offered. Look at the value that's being offered and think, how can I reverse engineer this in the thing I'm passionate about so that I can deliver more value to my customer base?
That is gracious and great advice. Glutenfreesociety.org. We'll be sure to drop that link down below. Everybody listening and watching, I want to encourage you to do exactly what Peter just recommended. Head over, check out what he is up to, because he has a lot of fantastic things going on. We talked a lot of business today. We didn't even touch necessarily the patient side of this and the details around all these supplements. Maybe we'll have you back for a part 2 in the future. But Peter, thank you for taking time out of your day, coming on, sharing, and chatting with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.